Today we're going to talk about the Harlem Renaissance and Romare Bearden. The Harlem Renaissance occurred because of the Great Migration. And the Great Migration occurred when more than 6 million African Americans moved from the rural South to the industrial North. People were moving north at this time because of labor shortages caused by World War I. Although life in the North wasn't perfect for African Americans at this time, it offered them freedom and opportunities many people had never had before. Romare Bearden's family moved to Harlem when he was just a toddler. His mother worked as the editor for the Chicago Defender, an African American newspaper. Her role brought artists, poets, musicians, writers into his home throughout his childhood. But Romare Bearden himself is primarily known for his collage and multimedia work. Let's take a look at a couple of his most famous pieces. The first one I'd like to look at today is called Monday Morning. I love this piece because I can imagine what Romare Bearden might see when he looks out the window. And I really enjoy his use of primary color. It livens up the whole collage. The second piece I'd like to show you is called Lady and the Blues. I love this piece. It's got wonderful watercolor in the background, and you'll notice the asymmetrical composition. The asymmetrical composition makes this such an interesting piece, much more so than if Romare had put Lady in the middle of the collage. The third piece I'd like to show you today is called Autumn Lamp. I'd like you to see the guitar in the lower portion of this collage. Romare Bearden, along with many other artists of the Harlem Renaissance, wanted to incorporate the musical aspect of the times into his visual work. So, now that you have an idea of what type of work Romare Bearden did, it's time for us to get started with our own collage. Hi, now we're going to get started with our collage. But before we get started with our collage, we're going to do a couple of thumbnail sketches. A thumbnail sketch looks a bit like this. And really all it is an opportunity for you to warm up your artistic brain, which is a lot different than your laptop brain. And also it helps you sort out some of your ideas before you commit yourself to your final project. It can save a lot of time and resources that way. Sometimes, I'm going to do another sketch real quick of this apple that's in front of me. Sometimes it's helpful for me to shut one eye while I'm working. That helps to warm up your artistic brain as well. It's another method of doing that. And you also want to keep a really light grip on your pencil. You don't want a death grip at this point. Having a light grip will help you make light marks on the paper, and it will help you avoid getting too caught up in detail at this point, because you really don't want tons of detail and tons of tone. You can put in a little bit, but don't put in too much, because really you're just kind of playing around at this point. And you don't want to get too judgmental. Artists can be so hard on themselves. I'm making the marks maybe a little bit darker than I normally would, simply because I want you to be able to see them. But normally, I really would keep a very light grip on my pencil. I put in a little shading. There's a little bit of shadow right there. So let's go back to this. Let's call that one a day. This is what it might look like when it's done. And now we have enough information, because I've decided I'd like to do my collage of an apple. Have enough information to move on to the collage portion of the project. So I have a lot of colored papers here. Romare Bearden worked with foil. You can get some foil from your kitchen. He worked with colored papers. He worked with fabrics and found objects, newspaper cuttings, magazine cuttings. It's all good. And so the thing that I have most readily available to me is colored paper. And so I'm going to start with that. And I am going to just make a quick sketch of my apple on the paper, because though it's not a hugely complex shape, I feel like I benefit a little bit by having the guide of some marks on the paper when I'm cutting out something that does have a specific shape. I'm cutting out random waves or something that I just want to have it be a random shape, that then I may not need to do this, but it's helpful to me. All right, so that's good enough for now. I'm gonna cut it out, and I'm gonna give myself a little extra room in case I want to refine the shape later. So you can trim down, but you can't trim up. And well, that's approximately the shape of my apple. Maybe it needs to be a little flatter across the top. All right, so I'll put that there. I cut this out already to save some time. My apple didn't really have a leaf, but apples do have leaves sometimes, and I thought it would be fun to have some color, extra color. And there was a shadow with this apple, and I like the idea of having a shadow in a different color. So I'm gonna guesstimate on this shadow, trim it up a little, and put it under, maybe it should go like this. Yeah, that's better. Have it go like that. And then, because I want some more color, and I like blue, so I'm gonna put this here. And it helps to create a bit of an off-center alignment. So you don't want it exactly in the middle. And I cut this out earlier as well. Just might be a nice thing to have layer some blue. And earlier in the day, I took some watercolor paper and painted just color on the paper and let it dry. And I've got some nice shapes here. And I cut these out, and I think I'll just layer that on there. So it really just is very fun and very abstract. And I think I might start to play a little bit with some perspective with this darker red. And so I could actually spend a lot of time on that, but I won't do that now. And so when you get the design approximately the way you like it, you can move things around, then just take a handy dandy glue stick and glue it on. I hope you enjoy your project.